What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Viking Studios. It is freezing where we are right now. Me and Metal Kitten are actually down in Watch Hill, Rhode Island, and the new moon is actually only in a couple days, so there's not a lot of moonlight in the sky. So today is a perfect test for two new pieces of gear that we have. And I guess you could kind of say we're testing three pieces of gear. We're testing this wireless Go from Rode. It's a little wireless lav system I've been using. I've been loving it. So it's really windy, it's freezing out, so this is gonna be a good test for it. But more importantly here, we're gonna be testing the DesView R7 monitor here. It's a 7-inch monitor with LUTs built in, pixel to pixel, you name it, it's got all the goodies. We're gonna try that today with focusing on the stars. And then paired with that today, we're gonna be playing around with the Sigma 24mm 1.4 art lens, native for Sony. And we're shooting that on the A7III. And what we're gonna try to do is try to get focus really precise at 1.4 with the monitor, using that to really dial it in and try to get some cool long exposures and see how this lens does for astrophotography or low light photography. And we have a couple of lenses with me as well that we'll kind of compare it against, you like a 14mm 2.8 and things like that. So without further ado, let's get this thing started. All right, so here we're gonna do a very first test shot with this monitor for astrophotography. This is a trick I've used before with an older monitor, so I know that having an external monitor makes it easier to double check your focus. You guys can see here in the setup, we have the monitor up top, we've got it on a ball head, we've got the whole thing ribbed in like a video cage, just so it kind of makes it a little bit more hands-free. But I got my settings dialed in here. We're gonna shoot wide open and really push this lens at 1.4, 20-second exposure at ISO 800. We're gonna have to kill this light in just a second. But as you can tell here with the Sony cameras, it allows you to magnify in. You can kind of check your focus, and then by doing manual, you can really dial in those stars and nail it every single time. So that's what I really love about having an external monitor. Sometimes on the little monitors on the back, it makes it hard to tell if it's quite in focus, and focus peaking is not exact. So being able to see that I can dial it in right on the monitor is excellent. And then of course we can also do like pixel to pixel and like punch in. So that's something that's awesome as well. So we're gonna go ahead and turn this light off and take a shot and see what we get. All right, so taking a look at that first shot that we took here is absolutely killer. It definitely let into plenty of light. In fact, ISO 800 might be a little bit much, which is kind of nice that I can go lower than that. I have a 14mm with me as well, that's at 2.8. And usually I have to crank the ISO just a little bit more to kind of get that same balance. So the fact that there's no light out here, I already kind of tell that we're gonna be able to get some really great shots. The other thing is that this is not super wide. It's definitely a wide lens, but it's not like 14mm wide, so you're not gonna get a ton of distortion. For landscapes, a lot of people like the super wide stuff, but we're gonna test it out against that anyway. But for right now, what I'm gonna do is, because that test shot looked actually pretty good, is we're gonna try to find an actual composition here to shoot now. So we do have the beach that's running over there. What I'm gonna probably do is try to get a nice shot of that and try to get the stars in the shot. There's also some grass here, so I might be able to get some cool shots with that. And then we'll take it with a couple different lenses and show you guys the difference. So let's do it. Okay, so what we gotta do here is we have a little bit of the fence that's right here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to use this as kind of a leading foreground. There's a couple little blades of grass that are moving around. So again, with a nice monitor, what I can do is I can actually rotate this around and kind of bend those blades of grass out of the shot, so that way you don't get any kind of motion blur. So that's what I'm gonna do right now, and then we'll take a shot for as long as we can, and then we'll swap the 14mm with it. So let's take a look. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Now we don't have any grass that's gonna be moving in frame. That's another great thing about having one of these bigger monitors. You can kind of get the composition exactly how we want it. I'll flip the monitor back around so it don't kind of cast any kind of light. Let me set this up here. So because the other one was a little exposed, we're gonna crank it down to ISO 500 at 1.4, 20 seconds. Again, I'm gonna dial into those stars and really try to make sure we nail the focus super tack sharp. Like right there, it's perfect. It's clear as day on the bigger monitor. That looks incredible. So we're gonna kill this light and give it a start. So we took a shot with the 24 and I can't be happier. That looks really good. On the back of the monitor, it does look crystal sharp. That's pretty impressive. The amount of light we got was really good at ISO 500. I can't believe how much light that this lens captures. And the composition's still wide enough to get pretty good landscapes. But we're gonna try it out now without changing anything, and we're gonna swap it for this 14 mil. Now this is only a 2.8, so once again, we're gonna go to 2.8, try to let in as much light as possible and try to really kill this. All right guys, so we took off the 24 mil, we just put on the 14. We're gonna give this thing a test here with the same settings, ISO 500 and 20-second exposure. You can definitely go to longer exposure with a wider lens like this, but we're gonna try to keep the settings the same. Now, one thing I can tell you here, just in the back of the screen, I have to really dial in the stars because they are way off compared to the other lens. But right here, I think we got it. I'm gonna punch in again. We're actually kind of focusing on Orion's belt here, so we can get it pretty dialed in. It's not as sharp as the other lens, so it's a little bit foggier to tell, but I think we got it right there. So once again, we're gonna keep the settings the exact same, ISO 500, 20 seconds, 14 mil, except it's at 2.8, and we're gonna try to take the shot and see what kind of results we get. This 24 mil, looking shot by shot, not moving the camera, keeping the settings the same. Obviously a 1.4 is gonna let in a lot more light than the wide angle, but oh my God, the difference is astronomical. It stops different. It's huge. Like, it makes me realize just how much cheaper the Rokinon is. And Rokinon's about half the price, about $300 to $400, and this is an $800 lens. But what you get with that $800 lens is significantly better than the Rokinon. We're gonna try a couple more shots here. I'm not gonna keep it too technical, but we're just gonna kind of walk around, try to get some different shots, some video as well. Being out here, there's no lights out here. We're literally lighting up with a bowling. God, I talk about these things all the time. They come in so handy. They're really high CRI, they're bicolor. We can set them to whatever we want. Got it set for daylight right now. And you know, it's able to let me do a production like this out in the field in the middle of the night with absolutely no lighting, no power source, nothing. So we're gonna try a couple more shots. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna beef this up to 30-second exposure, and I'm gonna crank the ISO back up and try to see if we can get something comparable to the 24 and see just how much we have to push that lens to try to get something close. So let's do it. All right guys, so that actually came out pretty good. We did crank the settings up on the lens, obviously. So we're still shooting at 2.8 on that 14 mil. But we wide opened the timer all the way up to 30 seconds, and we put the ISO to 3200. So substantially more grain that's gonna be in the final image. But I'm pretty happy with the composition of the 14 as well as the performance of it. Sony's got really good low light sensors, so I mean, I'm expecting the images to be just fine in post. I just can't believe in how much more power you have with the 24 at 1.4. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this other bowling light and I'm gonna hop over the fence right here and add a slight little orange glow to try to get like backlit for the fence and try to see if we can get something. The difference on this is just gonna try to dial in and make sure that it's not too much, because if we go too bright, you're gonna wash everything out. So we want it to be really low power and just kind of get a little subtle glow. So that's what we're gonna try to do. That looks good. Yeah. And that light is just gonna give a little bit of an ambient light behind the fence. So we're gonna try it. I'm gonna kill the regular light and start this. Okay, so a few days have gone by since we actually went to the beach, and we've been at home. I've been catching up on projects, and we've been editing some of those long exposures, and I've been able to kind of take a deep dive and look at them, what I liked, what I didn't like, based on being there, based on being at home, and taking a look at it in post. And comparing really the two lenses, the 24 and the 14. Which one did I really think was better? Which one really blew me away? I think overall I ended up getting a better image from the 14, but I think it's just because 14 mil just lends itself to better landscape style photos. It's really wide, you can get a lot in the shot when you're using foreground. So the framing, I think, of the 24 wasn't as good as the 14 mil, especially the fact that I didn't try to change it. I just set it up and then took a shot with the changed lenses to kind of show you like a really fair comparison. But if I was trying to take a nice composition with 24 mil, I think I could do it. And to be completely honest with you, I was more impressed by the 24 mil. The Sigma 24-1.4 is a killer. I mean, absolutely, I cannot stress this so much. How much of a killer low light lens that thing is. It is a monster. just tonight. In fact, I was out there testing out a couple more low light shots, some like long exposure stuff at like 10 seconds with like it stopped down to like 2.5 and cranking the ISO to like 500, and just it's like daylight. It's just insane the amount of options you have with that lens, which is really for me the biggest factor. Is I want to have versatility and want to have options. This 14, yeah, it goes to 2.8 and you can get some killer long exposure with this. For the price, this thing is a baller lens. For $300, this thing's pretty hard to beat. But this 24 lens is way sharper and it is just beautiful. That was the other thing in post. So taking a look at this 14mm lens in post, the actual photos are definitely softer. The stars just don't get that same sharpness that they do with the 24. So the Sigma lens is definitely a lot sharper. The other thing is, I mean, obviously we're stopping this down, we're cranking the ISO, so it is gonna be a little bit more grainier and stuff for me to expect it, but this thing can still pack a punch. The Sigma lens was really the lens I was out there testing out, and then that thing just blows my mind. Obviously focal length is what it is, so obviously wider is a little bit better for that kind of stuff, but 24 is still good enough to get some really good landscapes out of, and with less distortion. So again, because you have less distortion, you have a little bit more options. So I was really impressed. I am going to continue to test that thing and to do probably a whole series on low light, long exposures, or just like that kind of stuff at night, because this particular lens so far has just been, to me, I mean, absolutely mind-blowing. It's crazy. I'm filming on it right now, so here's another thing you can see in studio. Lighting, we just got a practical light behind me here. It's just a bowling light set to, I think, 2500 Kelvin. And I've got a main key light here at 10%, Godox 60 SOL light. We use that as a key on most of our stuff, and as you can tell, this lens is really nice in the studio environment just as well as it is outdoors. So it's pretty good. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. It was pretty last second, so it wasn't super planned out. It's not super scientific or anything like that. It was more of a first impression for being in the field. I have been using this lens out and about around here. I've been photo shoots and stuff, but we haven't done a lot on location because of the cold winter. So now that spring is almost here and it's starting to warm up, we're going to be doing a lot more. And I plan on taking a trip to New Hampshire. Last year we did that trip with this lens and did a bunch of Milky Way stuff. I cannot wait to try it with this lens. So it's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. So stay tuned for more videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one.